Alexander the Great is one of the most famous military leaders of all time, from conquering the entire Persian Empire, starting an age of Hellenic rule, and never being defeated. Alexander certainly was one of the people of all time. Our story begins with Alexander III of Macedon being born to Philip II and Olympias, Philip's fourth wife. There are quite a few legends about Alexander's birth, but mostly just to deify him in some way. Being a prince in ancient times, his father didn't really have the time to fully raise him, so Alexander was raised by a nurse and was later tutored by Leonidas. Philip eventually tried to find another tutor for Alexander, and at 13 years old, Aristotle became Alexander's tutor, a very notable Greek philosopher. Alexander made many friends at the Temple of Nymphs at Mysa and learned many things at said temple, but he was especially interested in philosophy. He loved the works of Homer and could quote Euripides from memory. After his education ended at 16 years old, Alexander was dropped into politics as he became regent and heir apparent. As his first move as regent, he drove the revolting Thracian tribe of Medes from their territory, colonizing it and founding the city of Alexandropolis. Alexander defended Macedon from the invading Illyrians, who he was getting ready to attack anyway. Macedon continued down south, taking Thermopylae, and were just on the doorstep of Athens and Thebes. After both sides tried to gain Thebes' favor, Athens and Thebes formed an alliance against Macedon. As the Macedonians came ever so closer to Athens and Thebes, Philip led the right wing of the army and Alexander the left in the Battle of Chaeronea. In traditional warfare at the time, usually the armies would face each other head-on, but in this fight, the Macedonians attacked on an angle, allowing Philip to break the Athenian lines and Alexander to destroy the Theban ones. Macedon marched into Peloponnese unopposed, but of course, Sparta being Sparta refused to let Macedon come in. Philip created a Hellenic alliance between all of the Greek city-states, which were practically under control from Macedon. But after returning to Pella, Philip met and married Cleopatra, and no, not the Cleopatra. Philip may have been happy, but Alexander and especially Olympias were not. This marriage made his position as heir less stable, which resulted in this happening at the wedding banquet. Oh, Hera, please marry my daughter and Phil, produce a lawful successor. You villain! What? Am I then a bastard? Alexander, you are. See there? The man who makes preparations to pass out of Europe into Asia, overturned him passing from one seat to another. Alexander and Olympias later fled Macedon and sought refuge with his uncle, the Illyrian king in Epirus. But only after 6 months, Alexander returned to Macedon, as it seemed that Philip had no intention of disowning his son. However, Alexander and Philip's relationship still wasn't very stable. The governor of Persian Caria, Pixodarus, offered his daughter in marriage to a half-brother of Alexander, after his friends and mother led him to believe that his father intended for Philip Jr. to become the new heir. Alexander sent an actor to Pixodarus, saying that it was Alexander who should marry his daughter. When Philip heard of this, he was outraged and scolded Alexander immensely. In October of 336 BC, King Philip attended the marriage of his daughter, Cleopatra, and no, not his wife. This other Cleopatra was marrying Alexander I of Epirus. I know it's confusing, just bear with me. When Philip entered the theater, he was stabbed in the ribs by Pausanias of Orestes. Oh god, is that how you pronounce that? I don't know. His bodyguard. Alexander III was immediately proclaimed King of Macedon, and Alexander knew it's Alexander the Great in time. By the way, he was only 20 at the time, so maybe it's about time you moved out of your dad's attic. Hey! Uncle. Alexander started his reign, as any good leader does, by killing a bunch of people. Alexander had Amnitas IV 2 Macedonian princes of Lycestis, and unsurprisingly Attalus, all executed. But the killing didn't stop there. Alexander's mother, Olympias, had Cleopatra Eurydice, burn alive and poison Arrhidaeus, who was mentally disabled, but was not killed because Alexander had some basic empathy. While staying in the city of Corinth during a Greek revolt, Alexander met famed Greek philosopher Diogenes. The homeless plucking chickens guy. After being told by Diogenes to get out of his life, Alexander would go to say to his followers, "But verify, if I were not Alexander, I would like to be Diogenes." After the revolt in Greece ended, Alexander wanted to secure his northern border by attacking the independent Thracians at Mount Haemus and the Triballi at the Lygnus tributary. After crossing the Danube, he defeated the Getae tribe, and then another revolt sprung up in Ilaria, which, as usual, Macedon crushed. But then another revolt appeared in Thebes and Athens. I think you can picture how that revolt ended. After dealing with all that, Alexander could now do what his father had so longfully desired. Alexander would conquer the Persian Empire.